tell you the truth, and I know that because I've seen it, Stephen.
Once I do this, I'll be free.
Stephen, I don't want you to die!
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2025 thriller Lifeline. The film is directed by Faraz Al-Fuqua and it stars Josh Stewart and Judah Lewis. Right, okay, the film focuses on Josh Stewart's character, Stephen. Now, Stephen works for essentially a company that offers like a lifeline service. It's literally called Lifeline. It's a bit like the Samaritans in the UK. People who are on the brink, people that are considering suicide, whatever, ring these lines and they get to speak to a helper. So he's agreed to kind of do this night shift on his own at the office, and he's taking calls as per usual, the usual kind of calls that you get in a place like this, doing his job, trying to help as best he can. And then he gets this one call from this young man who's on the brink of suicide, called Stephen, which happens to be the same name as Josh Stewart's character. And the more he delves into this person on the phone, it turns out that it is him as a young man contemplating suicide. This obviously shatters his world. He can't understand what's going on. However, he still feels compelled and desperate to save this young man's life, if only to preserve his future. Right, what are my thoughts on Lifeline? Well, I thought this one had a very, very interesting premise. I nearly described this as like a sci-fi thriller at the beginning. And obviously there are some science fiction elements here, but it does not anchor on the sci-fi aspect of this film at all. It is barely 5% of the film, if I'm being honest. The rest of it really is a character piece, a very grounded character piece, with this guy, Stephen, on the end of a phone trying to save someone's life, and that someone happens to be him. How it happens to be him is another question. What is going on is obviously something that you'd have to kind of watch the film yourself to find out. But I thought it was a fascinating concept. I really did. And I thought this was going to be like a really gripping, interesting character piece. However, unfortunately, I think from about the halfway point on, it kind of descends into narrative chaos, in my opinion. It kind of gets bogged down in its own narrative. It gets very convoluted. It gets overly confused, and it loses you as an audience member. It did me, and I lost interest in the last half of this film. It just didn't hold me as much as I wanted it to. And I thought the start of this film and up to the halfway point-ish, I was very interested and engaged in this film. But unfortunately, like I said, for me, it just kind of descended into complete chaos. It just went off the rails in regards to its narrative, in my opinion, and it really did lose. It kind of spins on its axis, sort of thing, the last half of this film, and I do think that is a real shame, because there was so much potential here, in my opinion. There was a time in this film where I thought it was going to be like Frequency, you know, that film with Dennis Quaid and Jim Caviezel, where they're talking to each other on like the CB radio, and the father and son, and it's like a time travel type film. That's a brilliant film. But unfortunately, what I thought it was going to be like, it kind of turned more into a Jacob's Ladder type film, and that's not a spoiler because that's not what happens. You know, Jacob's Ladder is a very specific, you know, ending to it, and I'm not saying that's what the ending you get in here, because you don't, but it felt more like that in spirit, if you like, in the kind of story it was trying to tell. So I do honestly feel this was a massive missed opportunity, because you got Josh Stewart here, he's an actor you'll recognise. He's been in a lot of things. He was actually just in the found footage film that I reviewed very recently on the channel. I think it was just last week. He wrote and directed that and starred in it. But he's done loads of stuff. You've seen him in a lot of stuff, and it's nice to see an actor get a film like this where all the attention is on him, because primarily the vast majority of this film is him on a phone. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, then this film isn't for you. Sometimes these type of films can be a complete snooze fest because there's very little going on, and sometimes the actor who is kind of carrying the film on his shoulders or her shoulders can't hold your attention. But I think Josh Stewart does a very good job for the vast majority of this film. It's not his performance that lets it down. I think it's the script that kind of lets it down. It completely, like I say, it goes haywire by the end of the film, and you're just kind of struggling to kind of keep up with the narrative, keep up with the story, and you just kind of lose a lot of interest. I felt I did anyway. So I do think this one is definitely a missed opportunity. I think they had an opportunity here to kind of really give us a very unique and interesting story, because everything's there really to kind of make it that. They didn't stick the landing, if you like, which is not uncommon for films like this. It almost feels like they just had a concept here. They just had an idea. Someone had a half-written script. Someone liked it and said, right, okay, let's do it. Let's go for it. We're going to make this one. You know what I mean? We've got something a bit different, a bit unique, and I think we could capture a bit of an audience here. But I just don't think they put a lot of time and effort into the second half of the film. And it just, like I say, it tries to play around a little bit too much with the sci-fi elements, and you just end up questioning everything. And then, like I say, the ending that it gives you, it feels like you've been duped a little bit, or you feel like your time has been wasted investing in these characters that when the film actually is showing you one thing but giving you another sort of thing. It's hard sometimes to talk about films like this because you don't want to give away certainly spoilers. So I'm trying to be as vague as I can, if you like, in regards to some of the issues that I have with this film. If I went into any more detail, it would spoil it if you're interested in watching this film. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on Lifeline. Let me know your thoughts if you've seen the film, if you're interested in checking it out, and I will, of course, be back with plenty more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.